Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about chronic headaches and how to survive them. I've had chronic headaches and migraines for, I don't know, I've had headaches for about 6 years, like chronically. And just before I started university, I started having the migraines, and they increased in frequency and how devastating they are. So I felt like this is a good time to talk about it because I've just recently, within the last 2 months, been put on beta blockers, which have severely reduced and like really helped me. So I felt like I should do this whilst it's still poignant and something that I can really remember how bad it was, you know? So to start, I'm going to talk about what headaches and migraines are, the difference between them, then medication, how to reduce the pain, all of that. Then what causes headaches, how to reduce the frequency of headaches, and how I've kind of dealt with it, mentally, dealt with how debilitating they are. So headaches are kind of more general, like it's an ache, throbbing, pain in your head brain area. But migraines specifically are headaches, or even sometimes not headaches, along with certain symptoms. So this is nausea, vomiting, and sensitivity to light or sound. Now this is kind of, I'm using the NHS definition as a UK citizen. This is split into three types. Migraines with aura, so this is where you kind of have like weird little balls of light, flashing light. My dad and my sister both have these, but I don't. So I am in the next category, which is no aura. But I'm also partially in the third category, is where you have migraines without the headache. So you get the nausea, you have to kind of sit in a dark room, you can't really use your brain much, but you haven't necessarily actually got pain in your head. It's just your head doing the bad thing, the migraine. This is actually somewhat important to know because, at least if you're going to a GP to get medication and get like help for your migraines, you need to, tick a few boxes. Like, I mean, when I started having migraines, it was very low level. I first had my first migraine. We were out in fishing, and I was just incredibly nauseous and out of nowhere for no reason. Sorry if you hear jingling, my cat has jumped. And I didn't actually have, headache or light or any of those other symptoms, but as my family has a history of migraines, we knew what it was. So I couldn't even get to where we were going to fish. I couldn't start fishing. I got, boated back and slept for a few hours until until dinner time, and I was fine. It was a very low level compared to what I've had more recently before the beta blockers, which was not so good. And you kind of need to tick a few boxes. So when I went into the GP for the migraines, because they were becoming debilitating, it was just kind of not being able to use my brain and nausea. So like I don't know how to describe it, but you can't really function properly, like in thought. I use a lot of circular logic, which goes nowhere by definition. But anyway, my dad made sure that I mentioned like that I have to sit in a dark room rather than just sit in my room, which is what I usually do, to, you know, get me started on the migraine help journey. So, for medication, the first thing to say is that by the time you feel it, by the time you've got a headache, you've got a migraine, it's kind of too late. Now, this is specifically more relevant for migraines, but essentially, by the time that it's kind of gotten going, it takes a lot more effort and needs much stronger medication. to, stop it or stop you from feeling it, which are two very separate things. So you kind of need to know what the beginning of a headache feels like and preempt that by taking the necessary medication that you take. So I always take like 400 milligrams of paracetamol, 400 milligrams of paracetamol and ibuprofen, because otherwise it doesn't really do much for me. But you kind of need to know what's happening, what's starting to happen, and get it then, you know? It's easier to stop a trickle than a stream than a flood, I guess. And so for me, I get like neck shoulder ache for no reason, so it's not because of posture or strain or anything. And also I'll just kind of feel pressure before I feel pain. But especially with migraines, the symptoms aren't, stopped at the whole I'm in pain thing. So you might need to get medication for your nausea. I mean, obviously the medication for being sensitive to light and sound is to sit in a dark, quiet room, which can be hard to do if you're at work or lectures, but sometimes you need to get on with work, and sometimes you need to know that you have to get out of there, So I always, almost quite religiously, somewhat paranoid, I keep paracetamol and ibuprofen, in my bag where I'm going. I also keep, this little sniffy, this thing you stick up your nose and then sniff, because I've also got sinusitis. But if you've got something chronic, if you've got something that happens frequently, just keep the medication, keep what you need on you at all times, because it's better to tackle it as soon as you can. But also, I mean, most frequently for the migraines, it's the nausea, just low-level nausea, that's actually impacting my life if it's a silent headache, silent migraine. So I kind of keep a good stock of I eat salt and pepper crackers, because I feel more nauseous when my stomach is empty. So I have to feed my nausea away, or at least settle my nausea. So, why are you having headaches and migraines? I mean, I think everyone's heard that whole thing of, hydration keeps yourself hydrated, and I don't think I've ever had a dehydration headache, but because have headaches so much, I'm also a bit paranoid about that. I drink a very large quantity of liquids, but not enough to be unhealthy. I don't think I could ever go that far, so keep yourself hydrated, obviously. Another thing is that actually one of the most common sources of headaches for normal people is shoulder and neck strain. So working at a desk, just having bad posture, very bad posture can give you headaches. So if it would be brilliant if you could just sort it out by just having a few muscle relaxing massages and being more aware of your posture. And the one that definitely increases my rate of headaches and migraines is stress. So after the end of my exams, I had about a week of where I was just bodily sick, and then migraines for more than an entire week. I don't think I was off some sort of illness for a moment. So obviously that's harder to deal with. But I would say doing a bit of exercise, getting outside, well, obviously not when you're actually in pain, but taking a moment outside of doing work and doing productive things and stressing yourself out. Just look at some green spaces, have a think, spend some time with friends, and you need to give yourself time to de-stress. So actually there's also one other one that I didn't know was a thing, is that some people can actually have migraines, not even just headaches, migraines triggered by certain foods and substances. So if that is what's happening, so just if you're having headaches and migraines, I'd recommend trying to eliminate things from your diet and then reintroduce them and see if that has any effect on frequency, intensity, or just having migraines, because that would be a really good way of getting out of it. I mean, if I could just not eat bread or beans or specific things and not have migraines, I'd go for that. But if you're unlucky enough that you will kind of always have headaches and migraines, as even with the beta blockers, I have much reduced pain and there's actually like been a week where I haven't had headaches, which was very nice. But I still have headaches, and I've only had like 2 really painful ones in the last 2 months, so that's really good for me, but it's still something to deal with, and even if you have a lower or higher level of frequency, intensity, it's still something that affects your life. So just some tips on how to deal with it. My really biggest problem is that I'm a workaholic and semi-perfectionist, so I need to learn to give myself time to recover so that I can work harder and work better later, because the kind of work, especially essay work or kind of problem-solving work that you'll be able to do when you have a migraine or have a headache, or that is really affecting you, is not going to be at your normal level, so you kind of being less productive by being productive. And other than that, it's generally just that you need to be prepared. You need to you kind of it gets normalized. It's normal for you to have headaches. And let me tell you, you will have no sympathy for people who have low-level headaches and don't take any paracetamol or anything for it. That's a problem I have with other people moaning. But you kind of get used to it. It's the new normal, and as long as you're taking every step you can to avoid it, then you kind of can't blame yourself for not being productive, for being in pain, and that's just something you have to learn. So I guess sorry for such a heavy concept, a heavy video, but I think it's just a view shot into what's going on, or what had been going on, and hopefully it can help someone, or at least if you have headaches, migraines, or anything, you feel that I'm a fellow and understand. So thank you, come again, guys.